All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm here with Pili Yarusi out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. I heard her on Bigger Pockets a few months ago, reached out to her, and we've been on the calendar to do this podcast ever since. So she's got a great story, great journey as a real estate entrepreneur. As everyone will find out, she transitioned from home flipper to apartment investor, and we're going to talk about her journey on how she did that. And I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Pili.
Super excited. I follow you on all the socials. I read all the books that you have ever mentioned. So I'm super excited to dive in with you. And
Cool.
yeah.
Nice. Well, if people are not familiar with you, how did you just tell me a little bit about your background? I know you're actually originally from Hawaii, and then we'll get into the real estate stuff.
So originally from Hawaii, born and raised there. Let's skip a few years to when I started in real estate. So 2013, we decided to move from New York City. My husband and I, Jason and I, decided to move from New York City to New Jersey, and we decided to start a family. Previous to this, we were in the restaurant industry. Jason owned a restaurant, and we decided that was done. We wanted to close that chapter of our lives, and real estate was the next thing for us because his family has been in the construction business for years. And when I mean years, I mean like decades, 40, 50 years, depending on when you ask my father-in-law. And we do house lifting. We actually take a house from its foundation, lift it up, rebuild the foundation. It's usually in a flood zone area. Back in 2012, I believe, Hurricane Sandy hit New Jersey heavily. And since then done thousands of homes this way. And this is kind of how we jumped into house flipping, our original, and you're going to appreciate this and why this was probably not the best business plan. Our original business plan when it came to house flipping was to take these flood ravaged homes that could not be sold. We would lift them up, and then lift them up again, add a new first story, and then add an additional story, which would be the garage. And that part would be the uninsurable area that was above the base flood elevation. So we would do that. So that's what we did for our very first home. Yes, we have construction background, but we had just jumped into house flipping. We didn't understand how long it was going to take, especially with the amount of time that it took to get the permits involved and to get the township involved and to let them know what we were doing. So we've done about 10 or 12 houses that way. We did learn to get into easier flips, but these homes take at least a year, 9 months to a year to complete. So as a house flipper, time is money, right? So the whole time on these properties were super long. So we did that for a few years. We also got into wholesaling, and that was amazing. But the next best thing for us was multifamily. And if you know my story, I originally said no to multifamily because I'm all about focus. House flipping and wholesaling and getting into a mastermind program that really, really made me and helped me to focus, allowed me to see if I don't focus on something, if I don't put the blinders up and put my head into it, it doesn't get done for me. I don't know if that's
I'm the same exact way, literally.
Exactly. So I need to put the blinders up, put my head in it. And I was pregnant at the time. And my husband, my amazing Jason, my partner, my business partner, love of my life, comes to me and he's like, I have this great idea. I'm like, okay, we're going to get into large multifamily. He starts to explain some of the benefits. And I'm like, absolutely not. No, with a capital No. We're just scaling our single family business into flipping and wholesaling. We're doing really good. I was also an agent at the time. I was pregnant with our second kid at that point, and we were growing our family, growing our businesses. And I said no. But the thing is, with education comes knowledge. With knowledge comes, I guess for me, I'm the risk adverse person of our relationship. So with knowledge came insight into how multifamily could take us to that next step. So that's where we are today. We are firmly in the multifamily world. We exited, that's a nicer word. We exited the flipping and wholesaling business. Our last deal closed, I think it was 2019. And we've been in large multifamily learning since 2016. We closed our first deal in 2017.
Awesome. And that's the reason I wanted to have you on the show, is because you are someone who came from the world that everyone knows extremely well. I mean, I do a lot of deals every month, and in the transactional business, I have rentals as well, but it's a completely different animal compared to the apartment business, which is generally, it's really the commercial business. You're buying commercial assets. They happen to be apartments. And that's a whole nother business. And everyone's like goal, it's interesting. They're like, whoa, I want to flip and wholesale until I have 500 grand in the bank. And then when I have 500 grand in the bank, I want to buy these large deals. That's like, if you ask 10 investors, that's probably what they're going to tell you, like 8 out of 10 times, right? They want to save their money in order to get to the big deals. Exactly. So question for you before we transition into the apartments and we deep dive into that, because that's amazing how you guys have grown very fast, since you've made that transition. What about, besides the obvious, what about the wholesaling and flipping business did you just absolutely despise that is completely different now in the apartment business? And the reason I'm asking this question is I have a lot of people, they think anywhere they go, the grass is always greener. And I certainly think that the apartment business is a much better business, in my opinion. But some people, they'll go from like wholesaling to rehabbing, and it's like you're just trading problems essentially. So what have you seen in the single family business that you absolutely hated that you see in this business now is like a fact that like that does not happen here?
Hate and despise. Wow, those be fighting words.
They're power words,
They're power words. There wasn't anything I necessarily hated or despised, except for maybe, and this is something that makes the multifamily space a little better. It was the transactional feel, the transactional world of flipping and wholesaling. You always had to be doing something. You always had to have these many deals in your like inbox, and these many deals like that you were working with, and these many deals that you were selling to really keep this big machine going.
Yeah, the pipeline.
Yes, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Your pipeline.
Well, you wouldn't need to know that because you're not doing it anymore. So you could just,
well,
it's a good problem.
It's a whole different pipeline in multifamily. In multifamily, it's like a steady trickle of like, let's say liquid gold. Whereas and you build on it, you keep on building on it, and you open up that pipeline as you grow. Whereas with flipping, it felt like, sometimes I felt like it was a water hose of just everything. And you have all these homes, like we only flipped in New Jersey, but we had all these homes all over New Jersey that we were working on. And we have a construction company. So of course we want to do it all by ourselves. And that was probably the other thing that kept us from leveraging, from really building and scaling the way that I know we could have in that business, was because we let ourselves be our own brick wall. We let ourselves be the ones that was holding us back, because we would always be the ones to lift up the hammer. If something needed to get done in that moment, like say a Home Depot run, you've done it.
You're going out and getting the lockbox and taking it back.
Going out and getting that lockbox, or even like as a real estate agent, I shouldn't have been listing those homes on my own. But I did, because I wanted that money, I wanted that cash, but my brain, my know-how could have been used elsewhere than having to show the home or having to get that lockbox and set that up. So there's so many ways that we could have leveraged other people that we didn't in that business. Multifamily forced us into this more management position. It allowed us to scale into ways that we weren't able to at the time. I'm not saying that maybe if we had a single family business right now, we couldn't, because of that, we're a few years older. We kind of know the mistakes that we made, but at the time, those are the things that were keeping us back. So I don't necessarily say I hated, and I think the word was despised, those things, but it was pretty close. And those are the reasons why we failed. I use that, that's a power word. But with those failures, I use those failures as stepping stones. So in essence, those failures back then became our successes of today.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And the transactional side is something that people, and it's like, that's the biggest difference I've noticed is like, you have that residual, it's not nothing's passive, right? Passive doesn't exist at least from what I've experienced. Like there's residual income or horizontal income, and then there's vertical income. And the flipping business, yes, you make a lot of cash, but like I'll have some months I'll make 100 G's. And then the next month I could make nothing in theory. Obviously we've marketed enough to where that doesn't happen, but you could have in this business, this is a real thing. We'll make 100 G's one month. The next month we'll make 20. And then the next month we'll make 40. Then the next month we'll make 15. And the next month we'll make $1.50. So you have these like sporadic cash infusions. And even though you can build your bank account up and I have rentals and all that, you're still on this hamster wheel because the model is transactional versus in the multi-business, the model it's just a totally different business. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of that, what does your multifamily business look like today? Because I am very impressed and inspired to see what you and your husband have built over the last, 2.5 years.
Actually, before we jump into that, I really want to mention
Sure.
for anyone that's looking to jump from flipping and wholesaling to multifamily, the thing that a lot of people that I've talked to, the members of our program that might be having this difficulty, and you know who you are, is they miss that transactional feel, that like success.
Yeah.
Whereas with the multifamily, it's like you could look at hundreds of deals, you could put out tons of LOIs, you could put out contracts, and you could get those signed contracts, but if they don't close, you don't have that quote success. So success becomes a lot different in this field. So just something for my flippers and wholesalers out there to think about when, because I know it's going to happen when you jump into the large multi-family or any sort of commercial space. Yeah. So where is our business at this point? It's so funny. These past couple of months, we talked about this offline. Summer has been busy. So normally I would say we have about 500 units, assets under management, over $85 million in our portfolio, but we have actually sold 2 buildings. We sold 2 of our buildings in Kentucky last month, and we're selling another one this week. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're super excited. We're exiting a bunch of our buildings. Our investors will be very, 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 very happy. So we've had about 800 units assets under management, and we are at the $85 million mark of assets that we have managed, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, how long would it take to get 800 houses? You know what I mean? Like a long time.
I don't know. I've never tried that. I know some people who are at that number, but I've not tried that. And the thing is, with large multifamily, you have the economies of scale. So I can get one building. For instance, our first building was 94 unit in Kentucky, and that was 94 units like that, basically under one roof. It was a couple of roofs, but it wasn't 94 separate roofs. It wasn't 94 separate boilers. It wasn't 94 separate problems. It was one building.
And you said that you hit it right on the head with the economies of scale. So when it comes to buying multifamily, there's really 2 things that I have seen. I have a small multifamily I own right now, but the rest of my stuff is just like onesie twosies. Yeah, it's a little bit of a pain in my ass, but this one has a commercial unit in there too. So like the apartments are great, but the commercial space, like there's a retail store there, and that thing's like a thorn in my side. So it's not a true multi. It's got some multi, and then there's a storefront. So it's nothing like the deals you guys are buying. Like this is a little mouse deal compared to what you guys have. But
it's all amazing. Like I said, your mouse deal is, and you know this, your mouse deal is like the world to someone else. So
yes.
I give you all the props. We have not done a commercial space type property, like any retail. We have not done that yet. So
it's a little different. So in the multi space, I've seen that there's 2 schools of thought, really. You can buy a performing asset that's going to be really stabilized, and you can play the syndication game, and you can, hold it for a while and then eventually sell it or refinance it if you can raise the rents. Or you can do the value add approach where you're buying a a mismanaged property that you can basically grow the net operating income and then obviously refinance or sell that. So what are you guys taking on your strategy when you're acquiring buildings? Because there's really two ways you can make a lot of money.
So the second one is our bread and butter. We do the value add strategy. We find mismanaged properties. We reinstall a kick butt management system, especially here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I want to give props to our management company, MMC. They're incredible. And as an asset manager, you want to find those property managers that will take your property to the next level. It's all about teamwork when it comes to multifamily. So yes, we do the value add strategy. That's our bread and butter, but that's not to say, because if you want growth, we are growing into that first strategy where we take a more stabilized asset and we take that asset over, and that you would find it more in like the B plus A range. Mm-hmm. Whereas the properties that we play with are more in like the C plus, like high Bs, mostly. So there's usually a lot more CapEx with what we do. There's a lot more, it's more hands-on.
More management intensive in the beginning to get it turned around. Correct.
But again, I don't want you to think that we are the property managers. We're looking to expand into property management, but we manage the managers. We manage our team. So I know a lot of your audience is house flippers and wholesalers. So the biggest difference between what we did before and what we do now is a lot of what we do is cultivate people. That's why I say relationships equal partnerships. So all the people that we have currently in our sphere, we've looked at them. We've been like, okay, so who can we bring on? Who can we talk to? What more people can we talk to? We're always talking to other property managers, other brokers, other people, just other partners that could come into our sphere to just expand our business and make it better for not only for us, but for others as well.
That's awesome. Now, when it comes to the, you guys are finding these value add properties where you can buy them at a certain price and increase the rents and decrease the expenses and ultimately make it more valuable. What are some, because your management team is the one who's executing this plan and you're just, finding the manager. What are some easy things that you found in your experience on the expense side that you can kind of slash that immediately makes that building more profitable, which would make it more valuable? Because that's like something that I see sometimes when I look at small apartments and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's paying for all these bills. I'm like, make the tenants pay. And all of a sudden you don't have to, so anyway, I digress.
Well, that's just it. Like, what can you give to the tenants that the original owners are already paying for? Because some owners, we look in and they're like paying for everything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Exactly. If they're paying for everything, I mean, number one, ask them why. Maybe there's a legit reason why. You want to have an open communication with either the seller or the broker and find out, why is this the way it is? And then start slashing those things like utilities, like in fact, like a laundry contract. Like, look at every single contract that particular owner has and see if you can get a better price, like a laundry contract, like landscaping, maybe even if there's a pool, like look into that. Like, look for these ways that you can bring more value by slashing those expenses.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And especially too, like I've found with like duplexes, I'm just saying like my experience is limited. It's not these big buildings, but a lot of the landlords that I talk to, especially if I'm going to like flip the house or whatever, they might like they are happy with their property now that they ultimately want to sell, but they are so used to running their multifamily, small multi a different way. Like they're so used to it one way, like they're tolerant, like they're okay with that. And I'm like, well, he might be happy, but I know I can buy this thing or flip this thing and I can totally change the paradigm of how it is. But does that make sense? Like, I'm kind of like jumping all over the place here, but I've seen this when I'm doing deals.
That's exactly what some of these mom and pop owners are doing, because they're so used to doing it a certain way. Like, in fact, the Norbrook, the first building that we took down, Jason and I were standing there, and while we were standing there talking to the seller, this guy hands him this wad of cash. And Jason and I just looking at each other, we're just like, oh, okay. Well, we know what we're dealing with. I mean, just those like managerial deficiencies that bringing in a proper property management. So now you have to think bigger. Like, don't think with the mentality of your one-off single family properties, because I know I have that mentality. I can do it all myself. It's cheaper if I do it, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. That is a lie that I'm telling myself, because I am not the best person for the job. You bring in a property management company, pay them the percentage that they are worth. For instance, MMC, we pay them 6% on the front end when we're revitalizing and repositioning the building, because they're doing a lot of the legwork. They're in the weeds. They're that good, and they're like, we're almost 100% occupied with our 93 unit here in Murfreesboro. And this went from like a drug-ridden, just not a good place for children to live. And I wish I could show you pictures of this property right now. This place is a fortress, and it has land behind it. It has a pool. It's beautiful. Like, but if you had walked the property before we revitalized it, before we repositioned it, like, I wouldn't want to bring my kids there.
Yeah.
In fact, we drove around it with our 7-year-old, and I didn't let my 7-year-old out of the car because it looked that bad.
Yeah.
But we were able to not only make it a safer place to live, but we were able to raise the community along with it. So there's actually a building right next door that we're playing with taking that building on, or we have in the past, because now that building's the bad actor, whereas before our building was the bad actor.
Yeah, you changed. Yeah, and that's got to be super fulfilling, because you're adding so much value, not only from a financial sense, but you're getting bad people out of properties who shouldn't be there, and you're replacing them with good people. And that's ultimately going to make everyone better. You're making it, like you said, a safer place for children to be around, a more higher standard of living, and I think that's something I've found with rentals, at least with my limited experience. Like, I think a lot of people have these weird beliefs. They tell themselves like, oh, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't like tenants, all this type of stuff. And listen, I'll tell you what, I've had my fair share of bad tenants. Don't get me wrong. I've been there, done that. I got an eviction going on right now, and I can't wait till the sheriff pulls them out. But with that being said, most tenants, keyword there is most, tenants are good people. They're honest people. They want a good place to live. They have no problem paying market rent if you provide them a good house or building unit, and it's all good. That's what I found.
I firmly believe in, if we take care of our tenants,
they'll take care of you. 100%.
And yes, they'll take care of me. In fact, like, we have police in our building that live in our building that actually lived there before we acquired the property. And you would ask, well, why didn't they help? Well, why would they? If the current ownership weren't working with them, they're just putting their necks on the line for nothing. So by working with them, we were able to tell them, okay, we can give you a certain amount off your rent. We give you permission, basically, to help us.
Yeah.
Permission to help us raise this community. So another thing that I wanted to speak to is our value add proposition. Our mission statement is to, when we were in the flipping and wholesaling industry, is to raise communities one house at a time. That was honestly our mission statement at the time: raise communities one house at a time. So when we jumped into the multifamily industry, it just became simply raising communities, because each building in itself is a community. You have the lives, the well-being of families in this community that you have now a responsibility to take care of. I mean, yes, I know we don't have the same fiduciary duties that we have to our investors as we do to our tenants, but we have a duty to make this place a better place to live. And in turn, our tenants will pay their rents on time, and if they can't, they'll work with us, and they'll take care of their units, so our turns don't have to be so difficult, and in turn help us help our investors make money.
Absolutely. You said it so well there. It's like, at the end of the day, that's what drives you guys every day. And that's why why you're doing what you're doing, and it allows you to push through the tough times, which are inevitable with any business, especially when you're turning around entire communities. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. So as we start to wind down the show, I definitely want to respect your time. when it comes to finding these properties, you came from the single family home world, so I'm sure you guys were doing a lot of seller marketing and dealing with, leads and mail or whatever you guys were doing to find deals. So how are you finding your deals in the apartment game? And are you doing direct to seller marketing, or are you relying just on brokers?
So we're doing it a whole bunch of different ways. We do rely heavenly, yes, heavenly to all my brokers out there. If you want to call me, I will treat you in a heavenly fashion. Heavily on broker relationships.
Okay.
But past that, we do some direct to seller marketing. So for any of my wholesalers and flippers out there, please don't lose sight of what you already know how to do and how you do it well. That's one thing I personally, and Jason too, didn't fully bring in. We had a marketing machine. We were putting in $15,000 a month into this marketing machine back when we were flipping and wholesaling. I slowly dwindled that down. I cut the marketing budget, and that's how we sort of jumped out of the flipping and wholesaling industry.
Yeah.
But I didn't think to tweak the numbers with that and keep it going for large multifamily. So now we're doing that. We are using the resources that we have at hand to go back to our direct to seller marketing. Get this though. This is where partnerships come in. We have a partner by the name of Chad King, who is...
I know Chad.
Yes.
My buddy.
He's one of our partners, not only in the multifamily space. He actually brought us that 93 unit, and that he got through direct to seller marketing. So you should have him on. He'd be a great person.
He's been on the show. Yeah, he's been on the show twice.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. He's a rock star when it comes to direct to seller marketing. He's also our partner in our mentorship program, 7-Figure Multifamily.
Yeah.
So Chad brings us this 93 unit that otherwise we wouldn't have brought ourselves. We wouldn't have even thought to look in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, because we're still in Kentucky at the time. So he brings us this deal, and he kind of relied heavily on mine and Jason's knowledge and know-how in the asset management space and the capital raising space. So we come in as a partner, and it was basically 4 groups, and we took down this multifamily together. It's not like a single family where you're kind of the driving force behind that one house.
Yeah.
Bring on partners that do it better than you. So at the time, we weren't doing so good with the direct to seller marketing. So there's where partnerships come in. Having somebody like Chad on our team, or Bill Allen on our team, like these folks. And I also have a partnership going on with some of the ladies over at the Invest Her community, Andressa Giadelli, Anna Kelly. Like, having the right partners on your team is key. Like, I cannot explain this more. It is key to multifamily. Like, having partners on your team. And I believe everyone's my partner. Like, from my SEC attorney to even talking with you on this podcast, we are all partners in what we're doing. Because one day, Greg, and I have you down on my list, we're going to partner up on something. I know it.
Absolutely.
Especially since you know Chad.
I know Chad, of course. Well, the thing with multis is like you can split, like it's easier to divide up, the rewards in a multi because it's such a large asset. Like, if I'm going to split 10 G's with someone and make $5,000, listen, I'm not going to throw $5,000 away, but like you can't, like, it's not going to get you up till 3 a.m. to split $5,000. But if you're going to split $5 million 3 ways or 2 ways or 4 ways, it's a lot of money, so there's more opportunity to do these types of deals where you can bring multiple people in, because if everyone contributes, you're going to be able to obviously, it's just going to make more financial sense. So again, that's a good point you made.
Economies of scale.
Yes, exactly.
You're not only scaling the amount of deals you can do, the amount of units you can bring in, all these things. You can also scale the amount of friends you get to bring in.
Yes.
You get to make. And I say get to because there's a lot of people out there that don't share the sentiment, but they think they can do it themselves, and some of them can, like, great. But I like friends. I like bringing people that can do it better than me. I did it that's why I hired Jason in the first place, to work in the bar that I manage. And that's what I do today. I bring in people that can do it better than me. Jason, if you're listening to this, I didn't mean that. I didn't say that you're actually a better bartender than me, but seriously, bring in people that are better than you.
Yeah,
I love friends and I love partnerships and I love bringing these people that just uplift everything. And as you grow, these people grow with you.
that's so true. And you collectively can achieve a lot more together than trying to figure it all yourself, you
Bingo.
know?
Yeah.
And I do that a lot in my house business with, like I'll have other investors bring me deals
Mhm.
and, we'll JV them. But like a lot of people would think that's your competition, but it's not. It's your friend. It's like, it doesn't, people just, their way of thinking is all skewed and they don't understand that if you think the wrong way, it's like, it's almost like walking through mud when you can go to the right and walk on the grass and go way faster.
Exactly. It's like trying to bulldoze your way through a wall when there's an unlocked door right next.
Yes, you can go right there. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of good nuggets. I think a lot of the listeners have been able to take away here throughout the entire interview. And I'm really inspired by your story. And I think, you're doing some great things. And we'll probably meet eventually in person one of these days, now that COVID is obviously over for the most part, at least in Tennessee. By the way, quick before we wrap up, you've moved from the Northeast down to Tennessee, which is, I'm assuming it's a much more friendly state to do business in and also to have, there's less restrictions. So how has that been coming from like the Northeast down to Tennessee? It's a little different of an area. Like, what has your experience been like so far down there?
So I've had people ask me this question before because I'm originally from Hawaii. Why would
Yeah.
I
So
want
you're
to live
all, yeah,
anywhere else?
yeah,
So I believe in making family wherever you go.
yeah. That's
I
so
believe
true.
in making it the best place to live wherever you live. So whether or not I lived in Hawaii or California or in New York City or Westfield, New Jersey, which all these places were amazing. I mean, if I wanted to, I could say what was bad about them all.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't like comparisons because nothing compares to the place that you call your home. And right now I call Tennessee my home. Like Tennessee has been amazing. Anytime I tell somebody that I just moved here, they're like, seriously, welcome to Tennessee. How can I help you? People have been so open and so amazing here. And then on the other hand, yes, it's a much easier area. And we were already in Kentucky. So why not Tennessee? And we moved here the same month, and this just happened to be a coincidence, I swear, the same month as we took down our first property here in Murfreesboro. We actually live in Murfreesboro now. All coincidences, I promise.
That's
But
awesome.
it's kind of nice to live in the area that I work in. So caveat though, like we started our multifamily business in New Jersey, which is not landlord friendly at all.
No.
No, 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 no. And now, but we started our multifamily business there. So it can be done. You can do this out of state, but safe to say it is much easier being here and being able to like walk the property and see it instead
Yeah.
of to fly over to our properties all the time. Kentucky,
Yeah.
like I don't know, 6-hour drive to our building from where we live. So it's a nice change,
That's
business
awesome.
wise and personal.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Especially like I live in San Diego, actually. I just moved back to San Diego. That's why I kept rescheduling these podcasts. And great place to live, apartments there, a little expensive, but been able to do the virtual thing. But yeah, I mean anywhere is a good place to live if you have the right attitude. I've learned that through experience the hard way sometimes. So
I
it's
love
all
San
relative.
Diego.
Yeah.
San Diego
But
is
by the
awesome.
it's a great city. By the way, I love Hawaii. I've been there. It's a great place. It's magical out there.
You can't beat Hawaii. You just
You
can't.
can't. I agree with you. Well, listen, this has been a great interview. If people are interested in learning more about you, what is the best way to reach out to you, I guess, social media wise, and then the best website if they want to, look into more stuff that you offer?
Social media wise, honestly, the best place would be Instagram at Pili Yarusi. I
Okay.
actually answer my DMs. So if
Nice.
you go into the DM and you see something you like and you want to know more about me, or if you even want to hop on a call, I answer my DMs. Website, if you're looking to put some funds, some money to work, go to www.yarusiholdings.com. That's my website. Check out our podcast, Multifamily Live. And I also have a mastermind, a coaching program called 7-Figure Multifamily.
Excellent. Well, we'll make sure all of those are in the show notes, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, and aloha.
Aloha.